Now to an incredible find overseas, an elaborate series of stone monuments believed to have been hidden for thousands of years, not far from the famous site of Stonehenge. And it suggests that mysteries that shroud this region are bigger than many of us even thought. NBC's Jacob Rascone has our story.
What if everything you were told about Stonehenge was wrong? For generations, we believed it was built by primitive farmers, rope, muscle, and blind persistence. But that story collapsed in 2024 when geochemical analysis revealed the central altar stone did not come from nearby Wales, but from northeastern Scotland, over 750 kilometers away, moved across an island with no roads, no wheels, no metal tools, and no known infrastructure. So how did it get there? And who was capable of such precision? This wasn't brute force luck. It was deliberate planning and knowledge so advanced that Stonehenge no longer feels like a relic of the past.
The mystery of Stonehenge just got deeper. New research reveals that 5,000 years ago,
But a warning that we may have underestimated the people who built it. 6-ton question. For over 100 years, geologists believed the altar stone of Stonehenge originated in the Preseli Hills of Wales. It made a kind of sense. Wales was relatively close. Other blue stones at the site had already been traced there. The altar stone was sandstone. Wales had sandstone. Case closed. Nobody questioned it seriously. Not the textbooks, not the visitor center plaques, not even most working geologists. The assumption sat unchallenged for a century, one of those comfortable ideas that becomes fact simply because no one bothers to test it. Then, in August 2024, a paper appeared in the journal Nature that changed everything. A team led by Anthony Clark at Curtin University in Perth, Australia, alongside Professor Richard Bevans and Professor Nick Pearce at Aberystwyth University in Wales and Dr. Robert Ixer at University College London, published a study titled A Scottish Provenance for the Altar Stone of Stonehenge. And what they found did not gently update the record. It demolished it. The team could not chip fresh samples from Stonehenge itself. The site is protected. Instead, they worked with fragments collected during previous excavations, some dating as far back as the 1840s. These tiny pieces of the altar stone, carefully preserved across generations, became the key to unlocking a secret that had been hiding in plain sight for 5 millennia. Using geochemical fingerprinting, the researchers analyzed the mineral composition of the stone at a level of precision that simply did not exist 10 years ago. They examined the age and chemical characteristics of individual detrital grains within the sandstone: zircon, apatite, and rutile. Zircon crystals form under extreme heat and pressure deep inside the earth.
Nothing forevers like zircon. It's literally older than life on Earth.
And they lock within them a chemical signature as unique as a human fingerprint. The team dated these grains and found the zircon lode was dominated by Mesoproterozoic and Archean sources, with rutile and apatite pointing to a mid-Ordovician origin, roughly 460 million years old. Then they compared this profile, this forensic fingerprint of the rock, against sedimentary formations across the entirety of Britain and Ireland. The result, as Dr. Ixer put it, was genuinely shocking. The altar stone did not match anything in Wales, not a single formation. Its geochemical signature pointed unmistakably to the old red sandstone of the Orcadian Basin in northeastern Scotland, a region stretching from Caithness to the Orkney Islands. Professor Pearce was blunt about the implications. The geological fingerprint, he said, is not repeated in any other area of sediment in the United Kingdom. There was no ambiguity. There was no second candidate. Let that settle for a moment. The altar stone, the central recumbent megalith lying flat at the very heart of Stonehenge, a slab of sandstone roughly 5 meters long and weighing approximately 6 tons, was transported at least 750 kilometers from the far north of Scotland to the south of England during the Neolithic period, around 2620 to 2480 BC. This was not a pebble carried south by glacial ice during the last ice age. Geologists had already considered and rejected that explanation. The distances, the direction of glacial movement, and the sheer size of the stone ruled it out. See, this stone was moved by people, deliberately selected, extracted from its source, and carried across the entire length of an island that, at the time, was covered in dense forest, had no roads, no wheeled vehicles, no iron tools, and no written language. Professor Pierce called it the longest recorded journey for any stone used in a monument from that period anywhere in the world. University of Exeter archaeologist Susan Graney, who was not involved in the study, called it simply a surprise. But it was more than a surprise. It was a demolition of the comfortable story we had been telling ourselves. Because if Neolithic people moved a 6-ton slab over 750 kilometers, then they were not primitive farmers who got lucky with some rope. They were something else entirely. And the question that now hung in the air was not just how they did it, but why? What made this particular stone, from this particular place, so important that an entire civilization conspired to bring it to Salisbury Plain? Stonehenge by sea. If you cannot drag a 6-ton stone overland for 750 kilometers, you put it on a boat.
6-ton iconic altar stone at the heart of Stonehenge.
And the moment you accept that possibility, the entire picture of Neolithic Britain transforms. Lead author Anthony Clark put it plainly in an interview with NPR. Just driving from northern Scotland to England is a relatively arduous trip these days, he said. Spare a thought for our Neolithic ancestors, where the heavily forested landscape, rivers, bogs, and mountains would have made overland transport formidable, if not impossible. Oh, the research team examined whether glacial movement could explain the stone's journey south. It could not. Ice sheet reconstructions showed that glaciers in that region would have moved the stone in the opposite direction. Clark was emphatic. There is simply no evidence for glacial transport, he said. This stone was brought here by human means. So how do you move a 6-ton slab of sandstone, 5 meters long and 1 meter wide, from the far tip of Scotland to the south of England during the 3rd millennium BC? The nature study itself states that the difficulty of long-distance overland transport, navigating topographic barriers, suggests the stone was transported by sea. Jim Leary, a field archaeologist at the University of York, agreed. We seriously underestimate their abilities and technologies, he said. And while we have never found their boats, we know they could transport cattle, sheep, and goats by sea. And this is not speculation. This is established archaeological fact. By the time the altar stone is believed to have arrived at Stonehenge, roughly 2620 to 2480 BC, there was already evidence of extensive maritime activity across the British Isles. Neolithic farmers had crossed the Pentland Firth, one of the most dangerous stretches of water in the world, to colonize the Orkney Islands as early as 3700 BC. They brought with them domesticated cattle, sheep, and seed corn. In 2016, a BBC documentary team reconstructed a Neolithic-style hide boat built from willow and cowhide and paddled it across the Pentland Firth from Orkney to the Scottish mainland. The 9-mile crossing took 4 hours and 50 minutes. It worked. And that was with a modern crew unfamiliar with the route. Imagine what people could do who had spent generations learning the tides. The connections between Orkney and Stonehenge run deeper than stone. English Heritage reports that some of the cattle eaten at Durrington Walls, the massive Neolithic settlement just 3 kilometers from Stonehenge, may have been brought from as far away as Scotland. Grooved ware pottery, a distinctive style of ceramics that first appeared in Orkney around 3000 BC, spread southward through the entire island, reaching Stonehenge and its surrounding monuments by roughly 2500 BC. The cultural fingerprints match the geological ones. Orkney was not an isolated outpost. It was, as the BBC once described it, one of the premier centers of Neolithic culture in the British Isles, if not the preeminent one. Ideas and animals, pottery styles, and now we know, sacred stone, all flowed along the same routes. Professor Pierce said the findings would have huge ramifications for understanding communities in Neolithic times, their levels of connectivity, and their transport systems. And he was right, because this was not a single heroic journey. This was infrastructure. A network of maritime routes connecting communities from the northern tip of Scotland to the chalk downlands of southern England. Stone axe heads from Cumbria, Cornwall, and Northern Ireland have been found distributed across England, evidence of long-distance exchange that spanned the entire island. The altar stone was not an anomaly. It was the most dramatic proof yet of something archaeologists had been slow to accept, that Neolithic Britain was connected by sea, and that these connections were not occasional or accidental. They were systematic, repeated, and essential to the culture that built Stonehenge. And here is the part that is hardest to accept. If they could move a 6-ton stone from Scotland to Salisbury Plain by sea, what else were they moving? What else were they building? And how much of what they created has simply been lost to time, eroded by rain, swallowed by peat, or buried beneath 5,000 years of indifference? The boats themselves have left almost no trace. Hide and willow decay, wood rots. The sea takes what it wants. But the stone remains, and the stone tells us that the people who built Stonehenge were not isolated farmers. They were navigators. Stonehenge, the sound machine. In 2023 and 2024, a series of acoustic experiments changed our understanding of what Stonehenge was actually for. Researchers constructed a half-scale model known as Minihenge at an acoustic research facility, replicating the dimensions, spacing, and stone density of the original monument. When they tested sound propagation inside and outside the circle, the results were extraordinary. The stone circle acted as an acoustic enclosure, containing and amplifying sound within the ring while significantly reducing sound leakage to the outside. In other words, Stonehenge was not just a visual monument, it was a sonic one. Inside the circle, voices would have carried with unusual clarity. Rhythmic chanting, drumming, or any form of ceremonial speech would have resonated and reflected off the inner surfaces of the stones, creating an immersive auditory environment. Outside the circle, these same sounds would have been muffled, almost inaudible. Imagine what this means in a pre-literate world. The people inside the circle could hear things the people outside could not. The boundary between sacred and profane was not just symbolic, it was physical, acoustic, real. But it goes further. Researchers had already identified that several of the blue stones at Stonehenge are lithophones.
It was made up of almost 84 giant sarsen stones, towering over 80 smaller blue stones.
Stones that ring when struck, producing clear, sustained musical tones. In the Preseli Hills of Wales, where many blue stones originate, local rock formations have been used as musical instruments for thousands of years. Some bear visible strike marks consistent with repeated percussive use. These were not random rocks chosen for their weight. They were chosen because they sing. Now combine these discoveries. A stone circle engineered to contain sound. Stones chosen specifically for their musical properties. A monument positioned on a landscape already rich with ritual significance. What you get is not a primitive calendar or a glorified cemetery. What you get is an instrument, a machine for producing controlled acoustic experiences in a world where sound was one of the most powerful forces available. Sound that could induce trance. Sound that could synchronize breathing and heartbeat in a crowd. Sound that could mark the boundary between the ordinary world and the world of the sacred. Sound that could make a priest or a leader seem to speak with the voice of something more than human. This is authority. Not the authority of armies, but the authority of awe. And the builders of Stonehenge understood something that modern psychologists have only recently begun to formalize: that controlled sensory environments alter perception, emotion, and belief. That architecture is not passive. That space itself can be a tool of power. The hidden landscape, the largest prehistoric structure found in Britain. Some experts had initially dismissed the features as natural sinkholes. They were wrong.
Tonight, Mosaic is now suggesting that the toxic sinkhole happened completely on its own.
Optically stimulated luminescence dating confirmed the shafts were dug around 2500 BC, making them contemporary with Stonehenge itself. The team suggested these pits may have served as a boundary, guiding people toward the sacred center or warning them not to cross a symbolic line around a consecrated space. Paul Garwood, the lead historian on the project at the University of Birmingham, said the extraordinary scale, the detail and novelty of the evidence was fundamentally changing our understanding of Stonehenge and the world around it. He was not exaggerating. The 4-year survey had revealed that Stonehenge was not an isolated monument. It was the center of a complex network of ritual structures that included timber circles, processional avenues, cursus monuments, and earthworks extending across the plain in every direction. The cursus, an enormous enclosed rectangular earthwork to the north of Stonehenge, was found to contain ditches at either end that aligned with Stonehenge's processional avenues, themselves aligned with the movement of the sun during the midsummer solstice. None of this was visible from the surface. All of it had been hidden for 5,000 years. Meanwhile, the stones themselves were revealing secrets of their own. In 2011, the Green Hatch Group conducted the first complete high-resolution 3D laser scan of every stone at Stonehenge, commissioned by English Heritage. The scan captured surface detail at a resolution of 0.5 millimeter, 9 million three-dimensional data points in 30 minutes. When Heritage and Dr. Hugo Anderson Wymark analyzed the data in 2012, the results, as the official report stated, were beyond all expectations. The scan revealed traces of stoneworking on virtually every surface. It showed that the builders had pick-dressed the outer faces of the stones on the northeast side of the circle, the side visible when approaching from the avenue, removing the rough brown crust to expose a bright gray-white surface beneath. The southwest side, facing away from the approach, had been left rough. And they had built a monument with a front and a back, a monument designed to be seen from a specific direction. But the most striking revelation was the carvings. Richard Atkinson had first noticed Bronze Age axe head and dagger carvings on sarsen stone number 53 in 1953. A follow-up survey in 1956 found 14 axes on the same stone. For decades, those were the only known carvings at Stonehenge. The 2012 laser scan changed that completely. By digitally stripping away millennia of weathering and surface texture, the team identified 71 previously unknown axe head carvings, bringing the total from 44 to 115. This single discovery doubled the number of early Bronze Age axe head carvings known anywhere in Britain. Susan Graney, senior properties historian at English Heritage, I said the carvings appeared to have been carved without regard to the importance or siting of the stones, almost as if the people who made them could no longer quite remember the significance of the monument and how it worked. Think about what that means. The stones were communicating something. They carried symbols, meaning, and narrative, and for thousands of years, those messages were invisible. Hidden beneath lichen, erosion, and the casual indifference of everyone who walked past them. It took machines to see what the human eye could not, and what the machines found was not a ruin. It was a landscape, engineered, deliberate, and vast beyond anything we had imagined. Stonehenge was not a monument. Stonehenge was the center of the world. Secrets in the stone. At the heart of Stonehenge sits a 6-ton altar stone that looks, to us, unremarkable, just another slab of weathered sandstone. But locked inside it are mineral grains so small they slip beneath the limits of human perception. Zircon crystals thinner than a third of a human hair. Apatite and rutile grains invisible to any hand lens, meaningless under a standard microscope. For centuries, archaeology could only guess. In the 21st century, it finally learned how to listen. To uncover the stone's origin, researchers at Curtin University turned to a technique borrowed from nuclear physics and mining: laser ablation inductively coupled plasma mass spectrometry, LAIC-PMS. A laser no wider than 24 micrometers was fired at individual mineral grains, vaporizing microscopic material. That vapor was swept into plasma heated to nearly 10,000 degrees Celsius, ionized, and sorted by mass. Where what emerged was not speculation, but a chemical and isotopic fingerprint precise enough to identify a single crystal smaller than sand. Across 2 analytical sessions, the team measured 83 individual zircon grains from altar stone fragments. 41 of those produced reliable uranium-lead ages. The results were staggering. The crystals formed between 498 million and 2.8 billion years ago. These grains crystallized deep within Earth's crust long before animals walked on land, survived continental collisions, erosion, sedimentation, human transport, and 5,000 years of wind and rain, only to be decoded in seconds by a machine on the other side of the planet. But chemistry alone wasn't enough. The researchers layered technology. On a Tescan integrated mineral analyzer, an automated scanning electron microscope, mapped entire rock sections grain by grain, generating false color mineralogical images and quantifying composition without human bias. This wasn't interpretation, it was total enumeration. Every mineral, every relationship, every spatial pattern measured and logged. The technique, first described in a 2020 study by Bevans, Peary, Ixer, and colleagues, marked the first time automated quantitative mineralogy had been used to provenance archaeological stone anywhere in the world. Additional tools followed: Raman spectroscopy, portable X-ray fluorescence, X-ray diffraction.
X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy.
X-ray fluorescence analysis is a technique commonly used at the SRF for chemical composition analysis.
Many of these methods were non-destructive, essential because direct sampling of the altar stone itself is forbidden. Instead, scientists worked with fragments recovered decades, sometimes more than a century, earlier. From relics dug up by Victorian archaeologists, modern machines extracted layers of data those excavators could never have imagined. Then came the real challenge: comparison. Knowing the altar stone's fingerprint meant nothing unless it could be matched. Mineral age populations and chemical signatures were compared against sedimentary formations across Britain and Ireland. This is where computation became indispensable. Multi-dimensional scaling plots compressed vast data sets into interpretable space. Probability density functions overlaid zircon age distributions. Pattern recognition algorithms searched for matches no human spreadsheet could reveal. The answer was unequivocal. One source fit. Only one. The Orcadian Basin of northeastern Scotland. And no secondary candidates.
Altar stone at the heart of Stonehenge originated from northeastern Scotland rather than southwest Wales.
No margin of error large enough to change the conclusion. The altar stone had traveled more than 750 kilometers across land, rivers, and sea, long before wheels, metal tools, or written records. And this was not an isolated revelation. In 2020, another team led by David Nash published a study in Science Advances that traced 50 of Stonehenge's 52 remaining sarsen stones to a single source: West Woods, near Marlborough, just 25 kilometers away. Using portable X-ray fluorescence, researchers established the stone's chemical uniformity, then matched that signature to a specific silcrete outcrop. One monument, 2 radically different stone types, 2 independent scientific investigations, both solved by machines reading chemical signals invisible to human senses. So the same technological shift reshaped our understanding of the surrounding landscape. The Stonehenge Hidden Landscapes project used ground-penetrating radar to collect billions of data points beneath the chalk. Algorithms sifted noise from signal, revealing buried stone rows, processional avenues, 90 concealed stones under Durrington walls, and a massive ring of shafts once dismissed as natural sinkholes. In 2012, high-resolution laser scanning uncovered 71 previously unknown axe-head carvings eroding silently in the rain. Without computation, none of this exists. The data was always there. Human perception simply wasn't enough. We are standing at a threshold. For centuries, archaeology was constrained by eyesight, manual measurement, and the limits of individual cognition. That era is ending. And artificial intelligence does not replace archaeologists. It does not interpret belief or ritual or meaning, but it detects patterns buried in complexity beyond human scale. And at Stonehenge, the most studied prehistoric site on Earth, it revealed truths hidden in plain sight. If this much was invisible here, what else is waiting elsewhere? How much of human history isn't lost, but merely unread? What unsettles me isn't the weight of the stone or the distance it traveled. It's the silence that followed. A civilization capable of moving sacred rock across an entire island, shaping space to bend sound and belief, and carving meaning into stone with methods we still can't fully name, vanished so completely that their descendants could only explain it with myths, giants, wizards, gods. We tell ourselves history only moves forward, that knowledge accumulates, that we stand above the past. But Stonehenge suggests something far more dangerous, that understanding can be lost, erased, forgotten. We can map these stones from orbit, yet we still can't explain why they were placed exactly as they were, or what they once did to the human mind. And if a civilization this sophisticated could disappear from memory entirely, then the real question isn't what Stonehenge was. It's what else we've forgotten, and whether the story we tell about ourselves will survive the next 5,000 years.